Today's Cosplay Con Talk episode is sponsored by Moco Queen Color Contacts. Don't forget to use my code Wayne for 10% off at checkout at mocoqueen.com. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. How's good, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome back to another episode of Cosplay Con Talk, where we basically discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. Today, I'm joined by Pacific Northwest cosplayer Cryptic Sodaa. You are from the Pacific Northwest, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, first off, thank you for wanting to come on to be interviewed to talk about not only about your cosplays, but also your convention experience as well.
yeah, of course.
So, real quick, I gotta ask, what made you want to come up with the name, the cosplay handle name Cryptic Soda?
I when I like first started getting into this, I was like way younger than I am now. And I was like hyperfixating on like Mothman and stuff. So like that's where the crypt part comes from. And my favorite book at the time was The Outsiders, and there's a character in that called Soda Pop. So I just stole them and combined them together.
I haven't heard that name. I haven't heard that book name in a long time.
I love it.
So, how long have you been cosplaying for, and what got you into cosplaying?
Oh my gosh. I think I've been cosplaying for about 6-ish years, going on 7, something like that. And my partner right now actually got me into cosplay. We wanted to go to a convention a few years back, and they were like, "Hey, this sounds fun," and I was like, "Okay." So, and then it just kind of took off.
Oh, what was your first convention, if you can remember?
My first convention actually ended up being Kuro Neko Con 2019 because I couldn't go previous years due to other issues, but yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Kuro Neko Con is technically a sister con to Komori Con.
I think
In
so,
in a
yes.
sense, if I remember them telling me that, I remember when going to Komori Con this year, they were saying that they like, yeah, the Komori Con lets them promote, and they're kind of like related to Komori Con in a sense.
I
I could
think
be
so,
wrong.
yeah.
Don't quote me
I know
on
that
that.
they like do a lot of stuff together, and every time Kuro happens, there's a lot of Komori stuff there. So I assume they have some sort of relationship.
Nice. So, Kuro Neko Con, what was that like when you first went back in 2019? What is it,
Oh,
2019 you said?
yeah, 2019. It was very, very fun. I don't remember a lot of it just because it was like 5 years ago and then COVID happened and everything since then's been a blur. But um it was very fun. It was a big con, given that it was my first con and I was like getting into that whole scene. It was a little overwhelming, but I remember it being very, very fun. And people that I like made friends with back then, I'm still friends with to this day. So it was definitely like a very, very important convention for me.
Oh, sorry about that. My computer is on. There we go.
There we go.
So yeah, like you said, I imagine, and Kuro Neko Con's a pretty decent sized con, so I imagine there was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on that year. I don't even think like I know I didn't experience all of it because since it was my first con, I was like a little overwhelmed because there was a lot of panels and stuff and fan panels. And I wanted to go to some of them, but I was very anxious at the time, so I didn't. But they like had their lip sync and their gaming hall and everything. That was very, very fun. So I got to see most of it. I just didn't see all of it. But it was a very big con that year.
Do you remember what your first cosplay was for Kuro Neko?
I think I think I did like it wasn't a character necessarily. I just did like a little steampunk outfit because I was still kind of anxious about like, do people actually cosplay to these events? And then I got there and I was like, oh yeah, they do. So I just did like a little steampunk outfit for that con because I was still unsure of myself.
It happens. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, because a lot of people I talked to in the past few years doing this, they've always said the same thing, like where, especially when it comes to like a first time cosplayer to go into a con, they think you have to cosplay. It's like you don't necessarily have to cosplay if you want
Yeah.
to. That's entirely up to you. Some people just go in their regular clothes just to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So, how many cons have you gone to prior to Coroneko Con since 2019? I mean, I know 2020 was like there was really no cons if there were cons.
Yeah.
Those were very far few in between.
Uh After, oh my gosh, I've been to like quite a few. I have them written down somewhere in like a media kit, but I think it's like I think I've been to like 7 or 8, maybe higher than that. I don't travel a whole lot for cons because I work and I can't really get like every weekend off. That they don't allow me to do that. Um, but I think I think about 7 or 8 because I go to my local ones a lot. And then I travel like once a year to
Oh,
go to other
nice.
cons. Yeah.
And we'll be talking about that here. We'll be talking about what it's like traveling for cons shortly. So, what's been like? I don't think this is a question I've asked. What's it like going to your local cons, aside from like going to cons like out of town or out of state?
Yeah, local cons are very, very fun, especially because like a lot of my cosplay friends are local, just because I'm very anxious on the internet. So making friends on the internet is like not something I really do. Not that I don't want to, I just don't know how to hold a conversation. Um, but a lot of my friends I've made like at local cons and stuff, so those are definitely the ones that I have the most fun at, just because even if I'm not entirely involved in what's happening at the convention, I usually will stay from open to close solely for the people who are there. But I really enjoy it.
Now, imagine when you went to your first con, did you go with friends or family or?
My at Kuro for 2019, I dragged my mom along with me, and she's a sweetheart. I love her very much, but she was so more into it than I was my first con because I was like, oh God, I don't even know how old I was, but I was like young and scared of everything. But I was like, I want to go, but I don't want to go by myself because the my partner right now, we weren't dating at the time, and like they were like, oh, I was gonna go, and then something happened last minute, and they couldn't, so it was like just me and my mom, and I was like, you have to come with me because I'll cry, and she was like, okay. So she dressed up and we went and it was very lovely, but yeah.
Well, that was nice. I think that, when you're, especially if your family enjoys it, that
Yeah.
makes it that make I think whether it's your friends, your family, or as I call them, a convention exit buddy, someone to go with a con with you just so things don't get too overwhelming. Because I feel like,
Yeah.
going by yourself is fun, but at the same time, it can get pretty boring if you go by yourself.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think I'm gonna have to edit this part out here. Um. So when it comes to a attendee's first time going to a convention and they're not cosplaying, what kind of advice would you like to give?
If they're if wow. If especially if they're not cosplaying, I'm my biggest advice is to like everybody ever going to their first con is always bring a friend, which I know we like just talked about, but definitely bring a friend and always look up like most cons will have the schedule
And a
on their
map too.
websites. Yeah, and a map, and I've always downloaded those onto my phone, even like if I've gone to the Lilac City Comic Con here in Spokane like 4 different times now, and every single time I still will download the map and the events of the day because I'm like, what's happening? Where am I? I don't know.
So I've heard of Lilac City from a few other cosplayers on here. What is Lilac City like? What was for you personally? What was it like going to Lilac City up in Spokane?
It's been pretty good as an attending. I actually was a cosplay guest for it this last year, and that was very fun.
Nice.
Lilac City is a very fun convention. It's a lot more like when non-cosplayers think about a Comic-Con, it's definitely more of that, where it's like you go there for the voice actors and you go there for like the car that they have to show. Because like
The
last
pi-
year, I think, go for it.
oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
Like last year they had the Back to the Future car, which was, or wait, maybe it was a Supernatural one. It was one of those two, but they had that to like go see.
Some nerd themed car.
Yeah, some sort of sci-fi car that they had. I didn't look at it very hard. I don't watch TV really, so I was like, oh, there's a car there. Cool. Anyways, but it's definitely more of like your stereotypical Comic-Con, like what you think of when you think Comic-Con. That's very much
Okay,
more
so like
Lilac
your Comic
City.
Con, so kind of like your Comic Cons back in the day, where not really a whole lot of people cosplayed, but here and there. Um, what was it like being a cosplay guest for Lilac?
It was fun. There are a lot of cosplayers at Lilac. It's just definitely not cosplay like oriented or anything.
Not
But it
like
was
Kumo or Rose City.
yeah. They've got a cosplay contest, but it's like they do that last on this last day of the con. But it was interesting. It was fun. There was just a lot of things that I didn't really realize was going to happen and a lack of communication. was kind of an issue, but other than that, it was very fun. I was able to bring like a decent amount of friends to kind of have with me at all times, so that made it a lot more manageable. There was a lot of stuff that like me and the other um lady who was guesting with me that we were right next to each other because we had tables. We were both figuring out like when like the day before con happened, and we were like, oh, this is stuff we didn't even know was happening that we're doing. Okay, cool. So
Yeah,
it was a
no,
little hectic, but
I agree. Communication when you're guesting for a con, like especially if you're a cosplay guest or you're hosting the cosplay contest or whatever, I feel like, and this is no like harp on any cons, but like you really need communication, whether, whoever's coordinating this, be sure to get their number so you can find out like what's going on because, you know, one minute you're doing this thing and the next thing, oh hey, by the way, this thing you were gonna do is now canceled. It's like, wait, what?
yeah, like one of my and I this is again this is kind of ties back to Lilac definitely being more of a conventional Comic-Con. They don't focus on the cosplay side of things that much, so I just don't think they have a lot of experience with it. But like I ran a panel at Lilac, which is something I've never done before, like up to that point. So I was like, okay, I'll just do it. And when I got there was like no staff or anything to help with tech issues that I was having. So like, thank God someone in the audience knew how to work a laptop because
Like,
I
hey, come
apparently
up
didn't.
here.
Yeah, but
You know what
they
you're
were like,
doing?
yeah, they were like, hey, do you want help? And I was like, yes, I don't know what's happening, and I don't know why my PowerPoint isn't working. It ended up going great. The audience was like lovely about it, so nothing bad happened. It was just like a lot of stuff that I wasn't prepared for that happened.
Well, thank God someone in the audience knew what to do.
Shout out to that guy.
I feel like you need. I feel like again, when you're staffing for a con or you're running a con, you need people who know what they're doing, not just like pick some random stranger like, hey, do you know how to do this? No.
Yeah,
Well, we still need staff anyway. Come on.
yeah,
Again, no disrespect to cons, but it's good to have staff or volunteers who are experienced and know what they're doing, in my
no, for
personal
sure.
opinion. Now on to advice for cosplayers who are wanting to go to their first con, or they're wanting to go to, as I call it, they're done with Disneyland and they want to go to Disney World.
Yeah.
I like to compare small cons to Disneyland and big cons to Disney World.
Uh, with any con, buddy system is always good. Especially when you're cosplaying. As much as I would love to say that humans are the greatest people ever, sometimes they're not. So definitely never go alone
Oh
to
no.
conventions because scary things can happen. But also like something that I started doing after like cons started back up after COVID happened was when you first like get your map and stuff and you're able to find that, like immediately locate where the security office is. I've never like had to go to the security office, thank God, but like if you can figure out where the info booth or the security office is for your con, just if anything were to happen, you don't have to be like, who do I go to? You can just beeline for that.
Oh yeah, no. I wholeheartedly agree. And some cons don't always have a map
Yeah,
or signage, which I think, especially if you need to go to like, cosplay repair info booth. This is like, unless it's in big bold letters, you're pretty much playing a game of Where's Waldo.
yeah, which is not the best, and that's at Kuro Neko Con this last year. It was held at the DoubleTree, so it was a smaller convention this year, just because they haven't been able to have a con for a little bit. But like, so their signage wasn't as big, but it was still big enough to be able to see. But even at that con, I was like, immediately find the info booth, and then we could enjoy the con.
Oh, oh yeah, no. Info booth is probably like is a saving grace for any
Yeah,
convention if they have it. If they don't, there's always, you can go to like the ticket booth because they're
yeah.
usually helpful. Let's see here. So have you traveled out of state or out of town for conventions?
I have once or twice, not a lot, just because I'm broke. Like, I'm a broke college student, so I can't travel as much as I would like to. But I've traveled a bit.
So, in your experience and what advice you can give, what can you say what it's like and advice wise when it comes to traveling out of for a con, whether it's out of town or out of state?
Um, Definitely plan ahead for like last minute changes and stuff to your schedule, just and especially that first day of con. Like don't put anything that you want to do like that's important to you at the first day of con because you never know what's gonna happen while you're getting down there. Um, like I went to Level Up Expo in Vegas
Oh,
early
wait.
last year.
Oh, wait, in 2020. Oh, that's at 2023?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw a video for that con this year because, mainly because the hype for the Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss cast.
Yeah.
And that con was, I saw a video and that con was packed.
Yeah, it was a lot. And it was a very fun convention, but I drove down there with my mom and
Wise choice.
yeah, and we there it was snowing because it was in February
Oh, that's
and
right.
the I think it was the I-90 highway was completely iced over and there was like a 20 car pileup on the way down, so we ended up having to take an extra day to stay in a hotel because we were like, let's not drive on the icy freeway while there's a giant crash.
No.
I was like, I'd much rather be a day late to the convention than
Rather be safe than like potential car
dead.
accident
Yeah.
happening. I mean
Um,
that's fair.
yeah. We ended up not like missing any of the convention because my mom is like an amazing driver and she was like, I found a
Shout
shortcut. And
out
we were like,
shout out to your
yay.
mom.
So I love her. But like because of like I knew that we were driving down there, I had been like, nothing important is being planned on the first day of con because if
Mm-mm.
anything happens, then I have the second and third day to like do all I want.
Oh no. I feel like your first day, especially if you've never been to the con, is get a map out of the con, or if they do it like, like how Kimura Con does a day zero and they have
Yeah.
stuff inside the con, like get an idea of where everything's at. So on day two, so like on the first day, it's like, okay, I want to check out all these things. Don't buy anything if you can control yourself.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
yeah, yeah, no. I feel like day one is probably just like get an idea of the con before you just go all over the place like a
No,
kid
for
at a candy
sure.
store. Which brings me to my next question because I haven't asked it in a long time. Budgeting. Kind of advice would you like to give when it comes to saving money for a con to spend at the con?
I like at most cons I will hard limit myself at like $80, which sounds like a lot, but when you go through the artist alley, like two prints sometimes can make that already. Which is I mean, artists need money to live, so that's no like gripe to them, but I definitely try to hard limit myself to $80. And if I can, I will not spend money until the last day of con. The only time I will ever spend money like prior to that is something that's like they only have limited stock of and it's obviously selling very quick. Then I'll be like, okay, I can buy this on the first day because
Oh
it
yeah,
might not
no.
even be here tomorrow.
Oh no. No, no,
Yeah,
no. Like chances are you're like it's like day three and like half their stock is
it's
gone. But
gone. Yeah.
sometimes though, like you can ask them if they have it on their Etsy shop too. Like
Yeah.
if you don't get the chance to buy it then, you can always buy it later. Or if you see them at another con, it's like, hey, do you still have this thing you had at, so and so con? And like,
Yeah.
you do? Great. Let me buy it now so I don't regret it later.
Yeah, most artists will have their business cards or like some sort of signage on their thing where you can take a photo. I have a corkboard right next to my computer and it's full of business cards from artist alleys that I've been like, I will buy this at a later date when I have more money.
If you don't mind me asking, because I don't think it's a question I've ever asked at all, what's the most you ever spent at a con
Oh
on
God.
merch?
I think it was the Vegas con just because it was like such a big trip for me and my mom to take. And I have all my Zelda stuff right here, and I bought most of that at the Vegas con, and I think I got like four prints from that con on top of everything else I bought, and I think it was like $120 by the end of it. And I was like, oh
Ooh.
my gosh, that's so much money. That's like half my paycheck.
Well, hopefully you were able to get food. I mean, I know convention foods are pricey,
They are very pricey,
but
but
hopefully at least you saved enough money for food and everything too.
oh, for sure. Partly why we were going down there was like for my birthday, so my mom was like covering all the food and stuff expenses for me because she was like, "You just get to enjoy yourself and spend your money on
Well, happy
things
early
like
birthday.
art." Thank you. But she was like, I'll pay for food. You don't worry about it." And I was like, "Okay." And that like ticked something off of my brain to go spend $120 for some reason, which I don't recommend doing, but I did it.
Oh no, I agree. Have a set budget for a con. Something I always say, say is Do as I say, not as I do.
Oh no, for sure. At the Lilac City that I guested at, I handed my friend Nori my wallet and I was like, I am allowed to spend $80 and that's it. And she was
If you
like,
s-
okay.
if I spend any more, just take my wallet away.
Yeah. I was like, you are in charge of my card. Do not give this to me.
Now, another question I always ask when it comes to conventions, and it kind of pertains to cosplay, or no, well, just in general, that hygiene is very important.
Yes. And very important. Please take care of yourself for the benefit of yourself and other people.
Oh yeah, no, no.
Um, yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, I didn't really have any more to add to
Oh,
that.
okay.
Just yeah.
I'm also sure you can agree that, oh, if also when you go to a con, make sure you have some food. Energy drinks do not count. Candy bars, the small ones don't count. You gotta at least, take some time from the con, go to a restaurant or pack some food because I'm
Yeah.
sure you can attest that, eating is very important when it comes to con, especially if the con goes on for like 3 days.
Oh no, for sure. Most like convention centers are usually around like three or four restaurants, and if that's like because eating out's so expensive nowadays, if you can like plan to either have it in whatever like food already in your hotel room or at home wherever you're staying, that you can just kind of leave and come back and go eat that. That's very important. And please never be like, oh, it's fine. I can last 7 hours without food because you can't.
The next
And
thing you
if
know,
you
the person's
can,
passed out on the floor and you have to poke them with a stick to make sure they're still alive.
it's bad. I mean like I say this like I'm perfect and I've always eaten at cons before and I definitely have not. When I was guesting at Lilac, I was there because some conventions have like the no food policy, like outside food policy, and food there is sometimes so expensive that I'm like, do I
I
want
mean,
to spend?
sometimes if you're lucky, the con will provide food for the guests, not just like the actors, but like the cosplay guests. Pending,
Yeah.
pending if they have the budget for it.
Depending on, and I don't think they did. I didn't ask, but I didn't see anyone else. So I was like, I'm not gonna ask because I assume no. But like I almost ended up passing out of that con along with my partner who were both, and we were like, all right, we're leaving early. Sorry,
Oh,
guys. And they were like, no, please go take care of yourselves. And we were like, sorry.
look at food now.
Yeah, they were like, oh
And
my gosh, go to Chili's.
and you're not gonna miss the con if you go out to eat. Like, yeah, you may miss a panel or something, but
Yeah.
your health and safety is more important than a Kingdom Hearts panel or whatever, you know?
Yeah. There will always like I mean like stuff if there's a panel for it, it's usually popular enough that it'll happen again at some point. So you're
Oh
never
yeah,
gonna
no,
miss
definitely.
like a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something. So
Definitely. What's it been like going to conventions with your partner?
good. I don't think I've been to a convention without them. Oh, I guess that's a lie. They moved for a second. I was gonna say like in a few years, but they were actually in Chicago last year, for college. So I did go to conventions with them. Anyways, but it's been really nice. I'm because I'm an online content creator, I've dealt with a lot of like harassment of a lot of different levels. And having them there has always like since they've moved back has kind of mellowed that out a little bit because people are for some reason respect the fact that I'm not single more than the fact that I've said that I'm uncomfortable with that. So that's been nice. But it's always very nice when I'm like not feeling well or I need to like take a moment and not get overstimulated at a con, just to kind of look at them and be like, can we step outside for a second
And
so
that's why
I
it's
can
always good to
breathe?
have a convention. As I always say, that's why it's always, to quote Crush from Fighting Emo, it's always good to have an exit buddy, or as I call it, a convention exit buddy.
No,
Whether
for
it's
sure.
your friend or you have your service animal with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Oh yeah, conventions you plan on going to for the 2024 season
Uh,
that you know for sure are you're going to.
yeah. Every year, Kuro Neko Con when it happens in Lilac City, I pretty much always go to. And Kuro Neko Con is having its Masquerade Gala again this year in February.
Ooh.
February that I'm going to, which is like a 1 day mini con kind of thing, but it was very fun last year. Um, so those three for sure. Everything else is kind of up in the air on whether or enough I can both afford it and get the time off work. So
Oh no, that's I mean you got to make sure you have the P2, you got to make sure you have the money, the gas,
yeah,
all these things to factor in because when you're an adult, it's like, oh wait, I have to actually do this myself
I
now.
have to like pay rent on top of the
Yeah, I have
$400
to
ticket I just bought.
budget.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think this is a question I've also asked in a while. What's your dream con? Like, it's a con you always wanted to go to, but yet you either you don't have the money or it's just kind of intimidating at the moment.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really know if I really have a dream con because like the huge cons like Emerald City, like I would love to go to, but at the same time, those crowds really scare me.
Oh no,
So
that's completely understandable and
yeah.
like, yeah, no, I get it. Trust me, I'm all too familiar. Com
Um, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be MCC over in London, which is a very long and far
Ooh,
trip. But I've got a lot of
Manchester
friends over
Manchester
there.
Comic Con. I've heard nothing but good things about that con over in Manchester.
Yeah. I grew up in England, so it'd be like fun to go back there and like
Oh,
visit and talk with
basically
people.
a basically be like
Yeah.
a hometown con, basically.
Yeah. And I've
Nice.
got a bunch of friends over there that I would love to go see and stuff. So, and I've always heard good things, and I'm like, that seems like a good con that I would actually be okay going to.
It's like you
So,
would have to have your mom, your partner go with you
yeah, I'd
though.
be like, everyone come with, please. Yeah.
Now onto the cosplay stuff. Um, what kind of advice would you want to give for someone who wants to get into cosplay? Like they've gone to the cons, not as attending, but it's like they're like, okay, now I want to cosplay.
Definitely start small, and I feel like such a hypocrite for saying that because my first like cosplay build was Princess Serenity from Sailor Moon, which is not a small build, but definitely like
Ooh,
start small. Um,
so
Thrift
that's a
stores,
lot of fabric. That's all
it's
I
a
have to
lot.
say.
It was like 10 yards of fabric and way too expensive for a dress I'm going to have to remake because it doesn't look good. Like I've never worn the cosplay or anything. I just made it because I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I was like, oh, this is hard. But definitely start small. Buying cosplays are like not a bad thing. And I know that stigma's been like lessened over the few years, which is very good. But there's some like online like shops and stuff that like you can get them at a fairly affordable price for cosplays. And even like if you have to thrift things and throw things together, closet cosplays and stuff are your best friends starting off just so you can get a feel for it. Because sometimes like I've met people who are like, "Ooh, I want to get into cosplay," and then they start doing it and they're like, "Oh, this isn't for me," and they've spent like $500 already. So like thrifting things even just to get a feel for if you actually like doing this or not is also always a really good thing.
Oh no, I wholeheartedly agree. And which brings me to my next question that I feel like, if you're a cosplayer on a budget, I'm sure you agree with this that thrift stores or buying piece by piece on Amazon is a way to go.
Oh, for sure. I mean, some of the cosplays I even like have now, were like thrifted or pieced together from things I bought over the years. I'm a big podcast cosplayer from like fiction podcasts. And so a lot of those are just either what I already had in my closet or stuff that I thrifted that I was like, hey, this looks like what I think this character would wear. Doing this now. So
So what's been like your favorite thrifted low budget cosplay that you've done?
my favorite, probably he is from a podcast, but his name is Michael from the Magnus Archives, and
I've heard of that. I've heard
yeah,
people like to cosplay from that.
he is probably my favorite. Not all of his pieces are thrifted. And like the only one that wasn't thrifted were the pants and like his fingers, because he's got these long, weird fingers. But the pants I already had owned, but everything else in that costume, I'm pretty sure was thrifted.
This is an art version of him. I don't know who did this, but this is from Reddit. Are the Magnus Archives.
Yeah, that's him. Yep, that guy.
Okay. Nice. So I imagine you probably wore like those, as I call them, the Jack Skellington articulated
Yeah,
fingers.
yeah, and
Okay.
that's what I wear for them. They're kind of uncomfortable, but they're fun, so it's fine. I wouldn't wear him to a convention because of like how uncomfortable the fingers are, and you can't really do anything when you have them on, but they're fun.
I'm sure. So I imagine you also make your own cosplays, right?
Yes. As of like the past 2 years, pretty much everything I wear, unless it's from a podcast, is handmade.
So, what kind of advice? Because again, this is a question I haven't asked in a while. Advice for someone who wants to get into making their own cosplays, whether it's something simple or just something, bam, boom, over the top,
Yeah.
EVA foam, armor, 3D printing, all that, stuff that requires sewing, and then later on you look back at it as like there was a lot of cussing and crying and then ripping the fabric.
Yeah. Um, References are your best friend, and it's not a bad thing to use bed sheets. I've used bed sheets a whole lot to make costumes that don't look like they're bed sheets. Um, and dyeing fabric. If you can find like a fabric that is like the perfect texture and stuff, if you can figure out how to dye it, that is always a good way to go.
Do you use the bathtub method to dye or the cooking pot method to dye?
I personally use the cooking pot method just because like I live with my grandparents and I don't want to ruin their bathtub.
So I mean, you probably have one of those big stock pots that are like this.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's like a giant metal pot and I'm like, this is mine now, thanks. And they were like, okay.
Well, I mean, it's good for dyeing not only, fabric, but also for dyeing wigs as well.
Oh, for sure.
And I also noticed you've done wait, did you already answer about the advice for someone who wants to get into making their own cosplays?
I was just saying like references are a really good thing to have. Like especially like if you can get like really clear ones, and then bed sheets and cheap fabric, even if you're making a super expensive cosplay, cheap fabric can look very expensive as long as you like honestly, if you iron things, a $5 bed sheet will look much more expensive than $5. So get
I
an
mean,
iron.
and I'm sure you've also bought in fabric from like places like Joann's and Hobby Lobby and
Oh,
all that.
right now, just because I've been doing it for so long and I have like super high expectations for myself. I pretty much only ever buy fabric anymore from Joann's. But when I was starting off, like some cosplays that I wear right now were still made out of bed sheets from years ago. So
And like you said, you wouldn't think that that was made from a bed sheet.
no, my I don't have any photos of him yet because I haven't been able to shoot him. But I cosplay Leafeon from Pokemon, and that was an entirely
Ooh.
handmade cosplay. And I think the cape, pants, and undershirt were all made from a bed sheet. And that was a recent build, but it was just white fabric I had, and I was like, why would I buy more white fabric if I can just cut
You
this
just
up?
need white and green or
Yeah,
that sandy color that Leafeon is.
yeah,
Let's see here. And I also know you've done makeup because I recognize your Bendy from Bendy and the Ink Machine.
yes.
So advice for doing makeup for the first time for cosplay, like what would you want to give and what's been your personal experience?
You're doing makeup for the first time for like a convention, never test the makeup day of convention. Definitely at least do like the day before. And I still sometimes do that. I've been doing this for 6 years and I used to like be a theater kid. So I've done makeup for a very long time. But I still will like to this day still test makeup before cons and stuff or before I get the whole costume on, just to make sure that everything you're using will actually do what you want it to, so that you're not disappointed day of. And when you get like new makeup and new palettes and stuff, definitely test all the colors and what they do, like on your arm or something before you put it on your face to both make sure you're not allergic to anything and to make sure it actually has the colors that are on the palette before you
Oh no.
spend 30
So
minutes.
I wholeheartedly agree. So do you use setting spray or setting powder for makeup and which is like the best for what style of makeup?
I personally use setting powder, and that's mostly because like the one setting spray I swear by, I just haven't bought in a long time. But I like when I used to have the setting spray I really like, I would use a combination of both kind of. Using setting powder is like really good for under your eyes and places that are gonna crease because you can just hit it like immediately with the powder so it doesn't crease. And then setting spray on your whole face at the end will make stuff not move at all, which is good.
Mhm.
Unless you have body paint. Please do both of them for body paint. Um, yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. Now also I imagine you've also worn heels as well for your cosplays.
Yes. I hate them, but I have done it a lot.
So it's another question I ask when I bring up about heels, especially when if I see like if I go on their Instagram and see like the cosplays because it gives me a point of reference to talk about.
Yeah.
When it comes to like wearing heels, what's like the biggest heels you've worn, and what kind of advice, whether it's, a man or woman wants to wear heels, what kind of advice would you want to give to someone who wants to wear heels for a cosplay?
Um,
Big or small, whether it's like your wedges or like, as I call them, hooker heels.
yeah. Um, oh gosh. I think the biggest heels that I've ever worn, I think, were for Sailor Moon. And it's just because I already had a red pair of heels. I don't think I have any photos of her in those heels posted. Um, but they were like 3 or 4 inches. But like
So
advice
about like,
wise,
so like about that big.
yeah, I don't really like heels, so I don't try to wear big ones because I will fall. Um, but I no, my partner wears heels. Like they've worn heels to almost every convention they've ever been to, and going like off that and what I have done in heels, definitely break your shoes in. Like do not buy them and then just wear them the next day. I cosplay Roxanne Wolf from Security Breach, and she wears
Nice.
heels and they're like a good size. And when I first got those boots and first cosplayed her back in like 2022, I think, I wore those heels like when I was making her costume so that I could break them in. So by the time we took them to con, I wouldn't have issues, which worked. I mean, they
Eh,
still were wobbly and they hurted, but that's because I don't wear heels. So,
that is completely fair and understandable. I know heels, and like you said, it's good to break them in. Oh, here's the one of your Sailor Moon in I mean, you can barely see it, but the
yeah,
man, yeah, those are, although those are one of like the thin heels too.
yeah,
Oh my. But yeah, I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure you can agree. Break them in. Also, it doesn't hurt if you're gonna wear them all day, or if you don't break them in, like wear like the socks and have like the bandages on your feet, so you're not
yeah.
like risking having your feet bloodied and blistered. The next thing you know, you can't go to the con the next day.
Yeah, no, if you are wearing like heels and you don't ever wear heels, definitely try to plan the cosplay that you are wearing those for like the last day of con, just in case you do have like bloody and blistered feet. You won't have to deal with that the next day, if you do still want to go to the con, because having blisters on your toes, even if you're wearing like sneakers the next day, can still really hurt.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's not fun.
and I'm sure you've also made sure to bring like a pair of flats, flip-flops, or Crocs.
I try to bring like a backup pair of shoes when I remember to. I don't I don't most of the time. Because I forget. But I would recommend you do it. I don't, but I think other people should. I'm a very much say as I do, not a no, do what I say, not as I
Not
do
as I
kind of person.
do.
Yeah.
That, that's completely fair.
I have great advice. I just don't follow it.
Does anyone who gives good advice, do they ever follow it?
I don't think
I feel
so.
like as feel like as adults, we never follow our own advice. We tell
I
people,
no.
don't do this, just don't do this. I can do it. You can't do it.
I'm going to do it, but you should not do it. I think the only piece of advice that I full-heartedly follow is that finding a security person and or info booth. But that's like for my own safety. Other than that,
No,
I'm like, well, I'll deal with the consequences, I guess.
completely understandable.
Yeah.
So you and your partner cosplay together. What's it been like cosplaying with your partner at conventions?
Fun, very good. I people really love to see duos. I've noticed like over the past few years they like it when people are together. It also like it does kind of help because sometimes if you're cosplaying like one half of a very iconic pairing to a convention, sometimes people will kind of like come up and be like, "Oh, well, where's like the other half?" Which is fine until it becomes like the thing where they'll kind of just stand there and they'll be like, "Well, you're not complete without them." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you should I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry." I just, it's very fun though to have them being able to do that because it's safety in numbers and we will like make cosplays together a lot of the time even if we're not like making one for each of us. Like they've come over and helped me make costumes that are just for me, but they'll help sew it because I don't want to sew it all by myself and vice versa and all that.
Well,
So
shout out to your partner for,
no, they're a lovely person.
What's been your favorite duo cosplay together?
Oh gosh. My favorite, we do them a lot, but they're also from the Magnus Archives. It's Timothy Stoker and Sasha James from the Magnus Archives, and I think it's like our easiest cosplay that we do together, but we do them so much that I can't tell if it's like my favorite or if it's like the internet's favorite, so it's also my favorite now because they love it when we do them. But it's they're very important to us because we've been cosplaying them for like 3 years now, so
Nice.
they're very important to us.
What's been the biggest one that you both have done?
We and like we haven't sewn anything since then, since these two, but Leafeon and Flareon we completed for this last Kuro Neko Con. And I don't have any of them posted on the internet just because I still need to take photos of them.
Well, by the
But
time this is out, I'm sure you'll have the photos by then.
one more
Maybe.
time, you
I
one more
said
time.
I'm sure by the time this comes out, you'll have photos by then.
Oh, for
Maybe.
sure, and I'll send you them. If we have photos by then. But yeah, those we Flareon and Leafeon, we were entering in Kuro Neko Con's cosplay contest for original design, which we did end up winning, but um they my partner designed the actual look of both cosplays and then I made most of them just because we trade off skills and stuff. But Flareon has this like big, completely orange ball gown. It's like off the shoulder with fur details and stuff. And then
Ooh,
mine, Leafeon's was like a ranger, like a D&D ranger vibe to it. So it was
nice.
they're big. The bow itself was like that my partner made because I don't do props. I can do props. I just don't like doing props. It's like 7 pounds. It's very heavy. There's a cape and everything. They're very big and very heavy cosplays, but
Well, I can't wait to see
yeah.
photos.
Yeah, no, they're some of my favorites. They're just a lot.
So, to go back real quick before I ask the one question about what you just said, advice for someone who wants to be a guest at a convention, specifically a cosplay guest, if they want to be a cosplay guest at a convention.
Email. Email cons with cover letters and media kits. Like my media kit, I update like every 3 months. Because I'm constantly doing new stuff, so I have to constantly update it. And I've for some reason the like algorithms on social medias really like me right now, so I'm also having to constantly update like follower accounts and stuff.
Oh, I know
Um,
I get that all too well.
yeah. So have a media kit and I mean you can look up like what you should include in a media kit. It kind of differs from person to person. A cover letter of like why you want to go to this con, like have you gone to this con before, what you can bring, like you're selling yourself kind of. If you've ever like worked a sales associate job anywhere, just like take all of that and put it into this letter. You are a salesman for yourself.
It's gonna have a portfolio basically.
Yeah, yeah, it's important. Yeah. And definitely don't expect to be invited to anything, I guess is the best advice that I can give to someone just to not feel disappointed. You could email 10 cons, you'll probably get 3 responses, and all three of those very well could be like, we appreciate your interest, but
Mhm.
no. Um, Lilac's the only con I've ever guested at, and I'm pretty sure like one of the major factors of me being able to do that was the fact that I live 5 minutes away from the convention center, so they didn't have to pay for like travel or booking or lodging or anything like that.
Yeah, no. And it's also nice pending there are the rare occasion where that con will want you to come back as a
Yeah.
guest.
Um, Usually just it kind of depends like from con to con. I would definitely follow up as soon as you can after the convention happened to be like, "Hey, we'd love to come back next year." I didn't do that with Lilac City this last year. I reached out to them like recently because I was like, "Okay, I can definitely go to con." But after Lilac City happened last year, I was so like stressed because I was also finals week like at my college when that was
Ooh.
happening. So I was like, oh God. So a lot was happening, so I didn't email them fast enough. And by the time they did, he was like, I am so sorry because I would love to have you back, but all of our guest slots literally just filled up. And I was like, damn, all right.
It happens.
It
It
happens.
happens.
But yeah, email them as fast as you can.
So you also talked about how you and your partner competed. What's it been like competing in cosplay contests, and what kind of advice would you want to give to someone who, wants to compete, and also advice for those who win their first cosplay contest and advice for those who lose their first cosplay contest.
Yeah, I've only ever competed in like one convention cosplay contest. I live next to like a comic book shop, and they'll sometimes host cosplay contests there. So that's where like most of my experience comes from. But it's like small itty bitty contests. But like at big cons, uh, it's a very fluid process. It makes a lot more sense once you like get in there and you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Usually the judging uh process for that, they'll section you up into like the categories that you applied in that you're competing in. And novice and intermediate would usually be together, and then if they have an original design category or journeyman, they'll put like master, journeyman, and original design together. Because if you're doing an original design cosplay, you usually have the skill set of a journeyman or master cosplayer. You're just technically in a different category because it's not based off of a official reference. Um, and definitely like when you're competing your first time, be nice to everyone because you're all there for the same reason and you've all worked very hard on your costumes. And I've even at Kuro this last year, I saw like a little bit too much passive aggressiveness for my liking towards like other contestants, which I get that it's a competition, but like we're all just nerds playing dress up. So be nice. And even like I doubt that any convention would say this, but at least from my experience, I know that judges will dock you points for being like a not good uh competitor with your other uh people who are also competing. So definitely just like be kind to everyone. Um as goes for like your first time winning and or losing, winning is definitely like a be so humble about it. Please don't rub it in people's faces. Like when I when me and my partner won at Kuro Neko Con, the original designs category had me and them, and we were competing as a team. And then a very, very talented Belle cosplayer from Beauty and the Beast, which she had designed her own costume entirely by herself and made it, and it was a beautiful ball gown. But it was literally just me and my partner against her, so it wasn't like a, oh, we have a bunch of contestants. It was a 1v1 kind of thing. Um, so it was like a very tight, like, oh, who's gonna win? It literally is one or the other option. And me and my partner did end up winning. And I've reached out to the judges just for like personal feedback on what we could do better. And both of the judges I've talked to were like, you guys won purely because yours fit the original design category better than Belle's dress did. And even though Belle's dress was an original design, it was still very iconically Belle, where we had taken animals and made them human. And that's no harp to her or anything. I know the Belle cosplayer, and she's an absolutely like sweetheart gem of a person. But when we won and after the competition was over, like my partner and I went up to her and we were like, "Hey, like we thought you did amazing. Like your dress is so pretty." Like, and she had like all her hems rolled and stuff, which is not something that we did because I hate doing hems. And I was like, I wish I had that talent, like, because I don't want it. I don't like doing it. But it was a very pretty thing, and she like there was no bad blood between us because we both understood that like it was gonna be us or her winning. And even backstage when we were like waiting to go on and perform and all that, we were talking, and she was like, I hope you guys I hope you guys feel okay and no nerves and all that. It was very nice, and she was very sweet. And there was no bad blood or anything after the show because nobody was like, "Oh, I won and you didn't." And that happened for like all of the categories that ended up winning. I didn't see, at least for me, for anyone to be like, "Oh, I deserved this better than anyone else." No one said anything like that, which was
No,
good.
that's
Because I've
that's
seen it
that's good.
happen.
Well, I've heard
Yeah,
I've heard
I've
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 heard
seen
sto
it
I've heard
happen,
stories.
which yeah, and I'm like, ooh, I'm glad that nothing like that happened. And everyone who won, they're all very talented people and were very sweet about everything. But yeah, if you win a cosplay contest for your first time, please just be
Be
humble.
humble.
And if you lose, um, I get that it can definitely be like a very down-putting thing to have happen. Uh, you just gotta like, there's always gonna be other contests in the future. And just because you didn't win and somebody else did, even if you think your costume like was cooler or bigger and better, sometimes it genuinely does come down to a technical thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
again, like how when we did win, ours came down to not skill, it was the fact that ours technically fit original design a little bit better than Belle's dress did. But if we
Mm-hmm.
were competing in like the Masters, she definitely
Oh
would have
yeah,
won
no.
anyways.
I feel like every cosplayer brings something to the stage when they're competing in those higher categories.
Yeah.
Like, like
Oh no, for sure.
they've definitely worked their ass off to get to that level of like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So now on to talk about your cosplays that you've done. What's that one cosplay you've not done in so long that you would like to bring back?
Oh, I have to look at my own cosplay list. I have so many of them. Uh, I've collected an arsenal at this point.
You basically, if you wanted to, you'd have like your own armory or museum of cosplays.
I really do. Someone that I'd like to bring back. I try to rotate my cosplays, to cosplay them as much as possible throughout the years. But Carl Heisenberg from Resident Evil 8 is one that I cosplayed last year to the Kuro Neko Con Gala, but I have not cosplayed him since, and I built his hammer and everything, and it's like 6 feet tall. I'm 5'2", so it's like a very funny oversize.
Yeah,
But
big
like,
prop tiny
yeah,
cosplayer, basically.
yeah. Um, but like I haven't cosplayed him since then pretty much. And that's probably, and a year isn't like a lot of time, but everything before that I've either retired or it was kind of like a one night spin-off. I'm bored, let's throw something together from my closet. But he's definitely one that I would like to bring back soon, once the weather gets not snowy.
I was shocked to find out that he's voiced by Neil Bowman, who is the
I
voice of
love it.
Asterion.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So I'm like, my
I
shock to find out, like, wait, so he's not only voiced, and he was also the voice of that one guy in the Resident Evil
no,
2 reboot. I'm just like, oh wow, that
no,
makes a lot of
he's
sense.
so talented. He's
Did
very
that, so?
talented. I was playing go for it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just
I'll
gonna
ask
say
you.
that I like downloaded Baldur's Gate a few months ago and I was playing it and I was like, oh, Astarion's pretty, I'll romance him, and I literally cannot bring myself to do it because all I hear is Carl. And I'm like, scary, scary man.
Or his iconic when you see that taxidermy bear here just goes rar.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So Gale is now who I'm going for. But yeah.
So so did that prop since that prop was so big, did it weigh anything?
It is very top heavy, but it's not super heavy. It's just kind of a little scary sometimes to like actually wield because how top heavy it is. But it's not, I think it weighs like maybe 6 pounds. It's not super heavy. And the weight mostly comes from the real metal that I used
Wait, you use
when
real
crafting parts of
metal?
it. But on parts of it. It's not like entirely metal.
Okay,
Most of it is
say.
cardboard and foam. But there's like the wiring in it and stuff is real metal, and the bolts and stuff are real because I wanted to there's real rust on it because I was able to do that, but I needed metal to be able to rust for it to rust.
That's
Um
fair.
so most of the weight comes from that, but it's not super bad.
Oh, that's always good. So next question, what's that one cosplay that you did once, but like after a while you just like it just didn't really fit the vibe. It was either because someone asked you to do it, you were curious, but it's just like I don't think I'd ever want to do this again. If I do, it's gonna like take a lot of like, strength and willpower to cosplay them.
Yeah, I actually my one cosplay like that I ended up actually giving away because of that reason. But Junko Enoshima from Danganronpa I cosplayed like way back in 2020 when that was like really popular again. Um, and that was one that I'll probably never do again. Uh, Partly both because like I was never even really into the Danganronpa fandom. It was one of those things that people just really wanted to see, and I was like, well, her costume's $20 on Amazon, so sure. And then I got not great harassment comments on it. So she's forever goodbye. And she'll never come back. So I think that's probably the only one that like is a for sure never again. The Homestuck one that I did back in 2020 is also kind of up there, but I would do it again for
Mhm.
the funny.
For the lols.
Yeah, for the laughs, I'd
Uh,
do her.
I just hope you didn't do the whole Sharpie bath thing that I
I did
keep on
not
hearing
do the
about.
whole Sharpie bath, I promise. There was body
Okay.
paint used.
Okay, good, because I've heard stories about that a few years back. I heard about the whole Sharpie bath incident during a panel
Yeah.
I hosted on here. I'm just like, okay, anyway, moving on.
Anyways, yeah.
Oh, I also just on your Instagram, I did see video of your quick Leafeon and Flareon on your
Yeah,
Instagram.
I haven't posted like videos, but
Oh no, oh okay. Oh
big
no, it was
cosplays.
yeah, nice. Um so what's been your all-time favorite cosplay? Like it's a cosplay you'll do no matter what, no matter how old it is, it's just like it's your comfort cosplay as I call it.
Definitely Sammy Lawrence from Bendy and the Ink Machine. I've cosplayed him for since 2021-ish, I think. I mean, I've had his cosplay for like 4 or 5 years. I didn't wear him until then because he's a very important character for me from a very like one of my favorite video games, so I needed him to like be perfect. Um, but definitely that one. And the axe, uh, is complete like everything in that cosplay, that's painted is completely handmade. The pants were I mean the pants were bought, but they were painted. I painted them by myself. But it's definitely probably
Oh,
one that I will continue to wear.
that one right
Yeah,
there.
that one. I love that guy.
That is really well done. How long did he
Thank you.
take?
He actually didn't take super long because like he looks very complicated. He's just detail oriented, but the mask I spaced out making his cosplay over a few years because I wanted it to be like perfect.
Hmm.
Um the axe I think took me like maybe 6 hours to do. The mask probably only took me about three. And his pants I recently repainted, and I think they only take took me like 2 hours.
Is that his mask in the background behind you?
Yeah, that one is
If you're
very
able to, can you
important.
show like a up closer version of it?
Yeah, I'm wearing pajama pants, so
That's
nobody laugh at me. But oh, I can get it. Oh,
Oh yeah, it's much like when I saw it in the
oh,
background, it's much bigger up close.
he's very big.
Oh wow, that is
Yeah.
so is that made from cardboard?
It is. It's just entirely cardboard and a singular little hook in the back. You can see like the remnants of body paint, but
Which
yeah.
like goes on your which would be you would clip to your head.
Yeah, I just clip it on the side of my wig and I'll usually like kind of stab the wig cap underneath it so that it's like totally secure and nothing
I don't
falls.
know
But yeah, that singular clip has lasted me like 4 years.
I don't know what it is when cosplayers, whether male or female, and they put makeup on, it's like they don't look like themselves. Like you really have to like look, is
Oh
that who
yeah.
I think it is? I don't know.
Yeah. I've had like one too many times where like I'll be scrolling and like I'll go past my friend's content and then I'll quickly scroll back up and I'm like, wait, I know that person. I know that one. That's my
Um,
friend.
Now, future cosplays you're currently working on for the 2024 year, and a dream cosplay. It's a cosplay. It's a character you always wanted to cosplay, but you don't have the time or skill or the funds to do it right now.
Cosplays I'm currently working on, the only one I'm working on like right now is Jill Valentine from Resident Evil 3. And she's
Ooh.
actually like done. I just have to finish styling the wig. Um, but in the upcoming year is Vax from Critical Role. And I'm doing that for the Kuro Neko Con lip sync this coming year with my partner as
Ooh.
Keyleth.
Keyleth is the short.
Yeah, the short like redhead Ashari, yeah.
Oh,
Um
nice.
we're very excited for it. But him and Percival from Critical Role as well, who's like the white-haired blue coat gunslinger. Um, Both of those are very much a dream cosplay. I'm making Vax's wings for the lip sync as well, which is where the lack of skill comes in. But I mean, it's fine. I'll figure it out, and hopefully it won't look bad. And if it does, I just won't wear the wings.
So you got
So
you got Vax, and who's the other one you want to do? You said
Percy,
Percy DeRollo.
yeah,
Nice. Now what is your dream cosplay? It's a cos, like I
it
said, it's
might be those two.
Vax and Percy. Nice.
Yeah, I hold on. I have a list of them. I'm horrible at remembering things, but it might. Oh, I lied to you. McCready from Fallout 4 has been a plan for like years, but I don't want to do him. I don't want to do him not well, so I keep putting him off. But that is something like from baby cosplayer crypt that I've been wanting to do since I started, but he's scary to me, and I don't know why, because he's easier than some of the other cosplays I've done, but he's scary to me. So
He's just a little intimidating.
yeah, well, he's also like voiced by Matt Mercer, and I don't know why, but that scares me. Like I have to
Mercer.
do him right.
Oh God, coming from someone who's actually cosplayed two characters that Matt's voiced, yeah, it could be a bit intimidating.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to do him right. It's Matt.
I
I
mean,
can't do him wrong.
I did his Leon from Resident Evil 6, and
Amazing.
I also did, as they call it now, Cole Cassidy.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, no, and it's just like, but now people are gonna now he I know people now that since Matt announced that he's gonna be voicing Vincent Valentine in the Final Fantasy VII Part 2 remake, people are gonna want to
Yeah.
cosplay that now. So it's just like
Yeah.
he's voiced three iconic characters from like, three iconic video game characters, Ganondorf in Tears of the Kingdom,
Yeah.
Leon from Resident Evil, Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy. It's like, dude's just stacking up those iconic voices.
He's just got them. He's got them all.
As Travis said once in a clip, I think Mercer.
Yeah. Me every time I buy a new
Oh,
video game.
oh God. So now on to my three favorite questions of all time.
Yeah.
Ever had any cosplay mishaps? Something that just, ripped, tore, fell apart, shattered, broke, snapped, anything that could go wrong did go wrong with a cosplay.
Oh yeah. So day of competition for Kuro Neko Con when I was wearing Leafeon, like 30 minutes before, I wear a quiver for Leafeon because of the whole ranger thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the arrows, there was only one full length arrow that fully went down the quiver. The rest of them were just half arrows that
Oh, like,
like glued.
oh, it's into, okay.
Yeah, just so I could glue them onto a piece of foam that covered the rest of it, just so I didn't have to deal with like a bunch of arrows falling out. And if one of them fell out, it'd just be the one. Which I thought was a genius idea. Until it wasn't, and like three of them broke off 30 minutes before competition. And so I like ran over to the little like cosplay repair place, but their hot glue was so hot that like it was melting the foam that
Oh
the
no.
quivers were attached to, and I was like, this is
Oh
bad.
crap.
This is really bad. I just didn't point the quiver out to the judges at all. They
Well,
were
judges,
like,
if you're watching this, you now
yeah, I
know.
was like, yeah, but I was like, well, they asked like, oh, what'd you make the quiver out of? And I was like, fake leather. And then they moved on, and I was like, great, let's not talk about the arrows that are broken.
Arrows? What
So,
arrows?
what arrows? There are no arrows. But
God
yeah,
damn
but that was
it.
probably like
It's
the
never fun when you have
scariest
like when
mishap.
you have like a prop break. I've heard many stories of things just going like south. I'm just like, so the next one out of the three favorite questions, as I call them, WTF moments slash awkward, scary, just basically what the hell moments at a convention that just made you like, did that actually just
Yeah,
happen to like, okay, I'm gonna go this way now? Ever had any of those moments?
yeah. Yeah, I've had that happen twice by the same guy. And I feel bad, but not really, because that was weird. But when I guested at Lilac City Comic Con, when I was doing my panel, when we were getting all the technical issues like set up, I was like, all right, I gotta buy time, talk with the audience. I don't want to just like sit and stare at them. So I was like, okay, well, like, do we have any questions of things that I can answer now, or that I can like you want me to cover in the panel as we're going through this? And this guy, I think like 3 rows back, raised his hand, and I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And he was like, "Can we be friends?" And this is a guy I've never met before. So I was like, Um,
Stranger danger, stranger danger.
well, yeah, I was like, well, I don't really know you. And I was like trying to be nice because this is like in front of an audience. And I was like, I don't really know you that well, but like maybe like in like I don't know, and like this lovely woman who was cosplaying Ursula, like a row in front of him, kind of got the fact that I was suddenly very uncomfortable, and she kind of just turned around and she was like, well, it sounds like they make friends naturally by like meeting people naturally and getting to know them. And he stopped saying anything after that, and I was like, okay, weird, moving on, but like whatever, right? So I got done with the panel and I went back to my table and I sat down and he came up and he was like, can I have your phone number? And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I don't give that out to people I don't really know, but like I have Instagram and stuff. You're more than welcome to DM me about that. And he kind of was just like, "Oh, well, I just wanted to be friends." And I was like, "Okay, bye." I don't know what
Just
to say to
go
you.
away
And
before
I
I
was like,
call
"Okay, that was
security.
weird." Yeah, I was like,
Oh.
okay, bye. And then we didn't hear anything else after that because my partner definitely glared at him like when he asked that. And not like they're not an overprotective person or anything, but they could tell I was uncomfortable, so they were like, I'll just glare at him and then he'll
Hmm.
leave, which worked. Um, and then a month later, Kuro Neko Con happened, and I was walking with like six different people. I had my partner and then three of my friends and another person, I think. And we were walking, and the same guy was like standing in the VIP lines or something, and he shouted over to me, and he was like, "Oh my God, hi!" And I was like, "Hi!" And he was like, "Can I hang out with you guys?" And I was like, "We're going back to our hotel room. I'm sorry." And we were not going back to our hotel room, but suddenly we were. So I was just very scary.
How about
So
that? Just cosplay's not consent. No means
yeah,
no.
no,
If they tell
yeah,
you no the first time, like little kids, that's one thing. But when it's a full grown ass adult,
yeah,
like you think, somewhere in that thing you call a brain, you like, if they say no, you think you would register, okay, they don't want to be bothered. Maybe I should stop
yeah,
pestering them because, it could get to that point where, you can have a cops called in, security called in. The next thing you know, you won't be allowed at that con.
yeah. No, like the first, at the panel when he was like, "Oh, can we be friends?" I was like, "Oh, maybe it's just like an awkward guy who just doesn't know how to like talk to people, whatever." And then it kept happening, and I was like, "Oh, this is
Okay, yeah,
uncomfortable."
this just like goes from just to okay to like okay,
Yeah.
this guy's a stalker.
I always give
And
people the benefit of the doubt until something it happens again. And then I'm like, never mind. Okay.
hmm, no, I completely get that. Now last one. What's been your favorite convention moment? Like to this day, it's something you always remember because it was like the coolest thing ever.
Oh, it's a tough one.
Whether it was like you met one of your favorite celebrities, you got to do something cool at a con, or it's just like, you know.
That is a really tough one.
Oh no, like these last three are always the curveball questions, as I call
Yeah.
it.
I Kuro this last time around. They had their lip sync competition that they do every year, which is always very fun to watch. And Uptown Cosplay and Keon Cloud, I think that's how you pronounce their name. They performed.
I've heard of Uptown cosplay.
Yeah, no, and they're a sweetheart. But they performed. I can't even remember the song now, and that I feel so bad. But they performed, and it was very, very cool. And they're very sweet, and that definitely kind of is what cemented me and my partner to want to do the lip sync this next year, which is something I'm not a dancer. Like I have two left feet, but they're a professional dancer. So I was like up until then I was like I will never be up on that stage doing a lip sync because I will make a fool of myself. And here we are rehearsing. So I think that probably was one of them. I don't do a lot of conventions. Like I don't meet celebrities and stuff. I kind of just there and buy art and look at the cosplays. So that's probably it. I also have a horrible memory, so I don't know.
It happens to the best of us, I
Yeah.
think. But it just seems like really enjoyed this, which brings me to my second to last question. What kind of impact has cosplay had on you?
Oh, a lot of a very good impact. A very like it's a mixed thing. Overall, very good impact. Like I definitely am a more confident person because of it. Like I am fine to do public speaking now, which before I start like even a few years ago, I would not be down with that. But like making friends and stuff has been very nice. I've always been very like a not social person and with the bad social anxiety, and now I have like friends. Um, it's definitely like helped me a lot. And it's actually helped me like get jobs in the real world because I'm a content creator. I like do a lot of editing and stuff, and I just secured a job at a news station as a video producer because of my editing
Congrats.
skills. Thank you. But because of my editing skills, they were like, "Perfect. We really don't even have to train you." And I was like, "Yay, I get paid." Yeah.
Ah, nice.
Um, yeah, but it's overall had a very good impact. It's like it's definitely also caused some anxiety from the content creation side of things because I've had one too many unsavory interactions with the public, but the cosplay community itself helps that not affect me as much as it would. So,
Oh no, I can attest to that myself.
yeah.
I think, if it has that much of a positive impact on you towards like it's made you more social, it's made you more be the person you always wanted to be, but you really couldn't figure out who that
Yeah.
was. And it seems it's really paid off for your life though.
No, definitely. I mean, like, this is such a cliche thing, but like I grew up like when the YouTuber boom was happening. So like I've always had like what I actually like a real job that I've always wanted to do, real
I
job.
mean, hell,
But
the YouTube
like,
boom didn't start to like 2011.
yeah, but like I've always wanted to be a content creator, but I'm like, well, we'll have a backup job just in case. But so this is what I've always wanted to do, which definitely helps when it actually is happening. So
Again, it seems like it's really paid off.
yeah, no, it's definitely paid off, so.
And oh, actually, no, might as well follow you on YouTube now
Oh,
since you say you do
well,
content
yeah,
creating. Nice. Definitely well earned too, I'm
thank
sure.
you.
So last question. What just advice in general out there you want to throw out there for those who are listening and are watching this, they just want to give.
If you wouldn't say it to someone's face, don't say it to them on the internet. That's probably all I've got.
You know what? That's really sound advice in my personal opinion. Especially when it comes to cosplay, like, the cosplay community has changed over the past, since it became more mainstream like the mid 2000s. It's changed a lot
Yeah,
and not always for the best, in my opinion.
no.
I think that should do it real quick. If you like, would you like to drop your links below so people can find you on social media, whether they want to stay up to date with your cosplays, conventions, or just random shenanigans?
Yeah, I mean, all of my social medias are just Cryptic Soda with two A's sometimes. It depends on if the username was taken already. So, yep, it's pretty much everywhere. I don't use Twitter a lot, but or I guess X now, but
We
it's
we
still
we
Twitter.
we we call it Twitter. It's when someone once said that's the only thing that they're gonna dead name is X.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, Cryptic, I think that should do it again. Thank you for coming on to share not only your cosplay and convention experience, but also giving some advice for those who listen and are watching this. And
Yeah.
can't wait to see what cosplays you do in the future. Can't wait to hear more about your convention stories and everything.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me. It was fun.
You are very welcome. As always, I'm Wayne the Unknown. Until next time, thank you for listening, and as always, thank you for watching.